What does this bridge have to do with Guinness beer? Anyhow, stay tuned. We're getting ready. It's not too many weeks now before we leave on our 54321 Canada tour. We're both looking pretty forward to that. It's coming pretty soon, so here's my plug. Subscribe and follow along and see what we get up to this summer. I hate doing that. Welcome back to part 2 of my little mini-series about the bridges of Vancouver. Today's video, we're going now to the First Narrows Bridge. So we're starting out right around Highway 1 in East Vancouver. We'll go right through downtown and then we'll get to the First Narrows Bridge, which is better known as the Lions Gate Bridge, from the south end of it. Let's go for a ride. So we're now on Hastings Street and we're going to take Hastings all the way into downtown Vancouver. But I'm going to turn the camera off for some of it because some of it's not the nicest areas of Vancouver and I'm not here to show that kind of stuff. So there, we just got through the nasty part of East Hastings. So I turned the camera back on again. I don't need to show that stuff. And those of you that are watching that live around here, you know what I mean. My question this week: what does this bridge have to do with beer? Well, let me reframe it. What does this bridge have to do with Guinness beer? This bridge, the Lions Gate Bridge, has kind of an interesting history behind it. So the bridge crosses from Stanley Park in Vancouver to get across to North Vancouver and the West Vancouver. And originally, there was just a ferry here back in the late 1800s, all the way up to 1940 something, I think it was. And there was a proposal at one time to put a bridge here, which made a lot of sense. But there was only about 3,000 people living on the north side at that time. So in 1927, the proposal was put together and it was shot down. Nobody wanted to build it into the park here. Turned out CPR was behind a bit of that, shutting it down also, because they owned a lot of property on the north side. So a fella by the name of Alfred James Taylor, an engineer at the time, and he kind of took it under his wing to make this bridge work. And he put together a plan, and it took about 5 years to get everything together. And that's where it has to tie with beer. He got Guinness family, part of the Guinness beer, that famous stout from Ireland. He got them to invest in the project. They were financial backers of the bridge, and they ended up buying 4,700 acres of land on the north side of the bridge. He worked with the government quite a bit trying to get this bridge passed. So it became a personal passion of his. 1933, they did end up getting it passed on the provision that they used local labor and local materials as much as they could, and it was a project to help people through the Great Depression. So it still took another couple of years for the bridge to start construction, getting over hurdles. Finally, I think it was 1937, they finally got the bridge started under construction. And the construction went pretty smooth as far as projects went back in the 30s. And finally, by 1939, they were completed and they opened the bridge. Now, at that time, it was only a 2-lane bridge. And over the years, because of the traffic, with the massive growth that happened on the north side, they had to narrow the lanes and turn it into a 3-lane bridge, which it is today. And you can see right ahead of me, it's the center lane is lane reversals. So based on traffic is which direction that lane is open. It's either north or south. So in 1939, when it was opened, it turned out to be the royal family had a tour of Canada happening. And on May 29th, I think it was, 1939, or May 27th, some of it. Anyway, my memory's good, but not that good. It turned out King Edward and Queen Elizabeth, the parents of today's Queen Elizabeth, were here on hand to open up this bridge. And funny enough, I've been going through a lot of stuff lately from my parents' house, and I came across this plate, a commemorative plate and a cup from 1939, and that was the tour they were on when they came here and they participated in opening this bridge. So there's the bridge. And supposing the Lions Gate name came from, just to the north there's a set of peaks that are known as the Lions. And from this view, this is the Lions Gate Bridge. So now there's two lions, one on the left, one on the right. And from what I was able to research, inside one of those two statues, Alfred James Taylor actually had his baby shoes encased in one of those lions. Like I said, this bridge became a personal passion of his, and it was kind of his life's work. He took so much pride in this bridge. A matter of fact, after the bridge was open, it was 6 years later he ended up passing away at the age of 57. And part of his final wishes that he had his ashes spread from this bridge into the river, which they did in 1945. So when Alfred was working with the Guinness family, they started a company called the British Pacific Properties. And this was a large amount of land that they purchased in order to build this bridge. And there's a neighborhood in this area now called the British Properties. Originally, him and the Guinness family started that company. Now, the Guinness family ended up selling the bridge back to the province of BC, and I think it was 1955. The project cost at that time was $5.8 million to build this bridge in the 1930s. 1955, they sold it back to the province for $5.8 million, the exact cost it took to build it, which I think was a real great thing to do for that Guinness family. They weren't in it for the profit. They just helped out somebody with a deep passion for that bridge. I'm going to see if I can find a lookout point to get a view of the bridge. I don't feel like going through Stanley Park today on a Sunday with all the people. It's a one-way loop, and sometimes it takes a long time to get through there. As you can see behind me, this bridge is pretty impressive, stretching from Stanley Park all the way to North Vancouver. Now this is the Burrard Inlet, which leads to the Port of Vancouver. So a lot of shipping containers come here, but what's really impressive is I can remember years ago when there was a US aircraft carrier that came in here, and they had to wait for low tide in order to get under that bridge. And it was on the news at that time, and it was pretty impressive about how close that boat got to that bridge. Like, how tall it stands out of the water is amazing. Now, the reason why they call it the First Narrows Bridge and the Second Narrows, the one we did last week, is these are the 2 points of the Burrard Inlet that are the closest together, south side to the north side. Originally, that's why they called it that. But the question that I have, and the thing I wonder, like I talked about last week, to tie the two bridges together. Now, this bridge has had a history of not falling down, but pieces falling off of it. And it was back in the 1980s and 90s that pieces of the road started falling off. I don't think the bridge was ever designed to last that long. And my understanding We didn't live here at the time, but it was around 2000. They had quite a project where they replaced the whole surface, all the decking. And they didn't shut down the bridge. They did the work at nights, and I think it was only 4 days over that year and a half that they actually shut down the bridge. So it's got a new lease on life. But what I wonder is, since the south side is the Stanley Park and the north side is so populated, what happens with one of these two bridges ever needs to be replaced? This bridge has 60 to 70,000 cars a day going on it. The other one has 80,000 plus. And if you ever had to replace a bridge, where do you put it? How do you do it when there's no space? So what happens 50 years from now when the life expectancy of these bridges is not safe anymore? What happens? Just what if? I'm always curious about things like that. Anyhow, there's the little mini series about the bridges of Vancouver. I hope you enjoy that. It's beautiful here at the beginning of March, and I thought I'd go out and do something a little bit different. Anyhow, stay tuned. We're getting ready. It's not too many weeks now before we leave on our 54321 Canada tour. We're both looking pretty forward to that. It's coming pretty soon, so here's my plug. Subscribe and follow along and see what we get up to this summer. I hate doing that.